Welcome to the next video in our series about forest management. In the previous episode, we covered late stand management and everything required to prepare a stand for harvest. Today, we will learn all about how we harvest our forests. Brian will show us how trees are actually harvested, and Tyler will discuss legal requirements and best management practices.
Hi, I'm Brian Irvin. I'm the Senior Operations Forester here in the Roanoke Timberlands, and we operate in Virginia and North Carolina.
After years of care and planning, we're finally ready to harvest. So how are trees actually harvested? It depends on the characteristics of the stand. In North Carolina and Virginia, the landscape is flat to gently rolling hills, which allows us to harvest using machines. A machine called a feller buncher cuts the trees down and creates small piles that a skidder then collects and pulls to the landing. Each tree is limbed, trimmed, and sorted by the loader before being loaded onto a truck for delivery to the mill. This process is fast, efficient, and relatively safe. In Oregon, the rugged landscape typically does not allow for the same harvest techniques. Instead, we often use a system known as cable logging. This involves a logger cutting each tree with a chainsaw, then using a cable system called a yarder to haul the trees up a slope to the landing. This method of logging is labor-intensive and not as safe, but ultimately the best option for harvesting on steep slopes. All of the logging crews we contract with are highly skilled at what they do. Typically, our primary harvest method is to clear cut. Clear cutting is a harvest method where nearly every tree in a stand is removed. There are several reasons for clear cutting as opposed to other harvest methods. First, clear cutting is the safest and most efficient method, especially on the steep slopes of our Oregon timberland. It is far more difficult and dangerous to selectively cut, which also drives up the cost. Second, the native species we plant are shade intolerant, meaning they require full, direct sunlight to grow. Clear cuts provide the optimal growing environment for our seedlings. And finally, a clear cut provides excellent habitat for pollinators, songbirds, grazers, and other animals that rely on the qualities of a young forest.
Hi, my name's Tyler Haddock, and I'm a contract logging supervisor at the Western Regional Office.
There are many laws and regulations and best management practices governing the way we operate in the woods. In Oregon, we have the Forest Practices Act that regulates timber harvest. In North Carolina and Virginia, we use the state's best management practices, or BMPs, and our certification to the Sustainable Forestry Initiative to guide our harvest plan. Some of the key requirements of the Forest Practices Act, BMPs, and SFI include rules about clear-cut size, the retention of important forest elements, and the protection of special sites. Clear cuts must be no larger than 120 acres. On average, our clear cuts are around 60 acres in Oregon and 90 acres in our Roanoke timberlands. We are required to leave 2 standing and 2 down trees for every acre of planned harvest. We can choose which trees to leave and how to distribute the wildlife trees across the harvest site to maximize their value as habitat and minimize their safety risks and costs. Many species depend on standing, dead trees, and snakes for things like life, food, and nesting locations. So we often choose to leave old, damaged, and dying trees that are low timber value. We also leave sections of undisturbed forest called stream buffers. Surrounding certain waterways, buffers shade the water and keep it cool for water quality and fish habitat, and also prevent sediment from entering into the water. The size of the stream buffer depends on the characteristics of the stream, including size, whether fish are present, and whether the stream feeds into a drinking water source. When some special site is identified on our timberlands, such as an area with higher environmental value or unique cultural site, we exclude that area from harvest. For example, in our Roanoke timberlands, we have several areas that we protect from harvest for different reasons. Bottomland hardwood swamps, old homesteads, grave sites, and even areas with rare species have been identified and are excluded from harvest for conservation. Overall, the non-timber value of our forests are well protected by laws, regulations, certifications, and requirements.
Every timber harvest is the culmination of decades of work for our forestry team. It's a point of pride for a forester to care for a patch of forest from planting to harvest. We are deeply invested in the land that we manage and committed to sustainable timber harvest for the long run. Thank you for joining us on this episode of our Forest Management Education Series. Next time, we will close out the cycle with preparing a harvested site for planting.